Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Chat Daddy, and glad to be here with you guys on a Monday evening. Believe it or not, is this the first Monday of December? It is. We're 7 days into December of 2020, a year like no other. Glad to have you all here. Hey, good evening. Good evening. I see everyone coming in. I have another great show planned for your viewing and listening pleasure this evening. Coming up on tonight's show, our good friend, Dr. Janet Seabrook, is back. She is the CEO of Family Health Net, located in Gary, Indiana. Let me make sure I had that right about that. Yeah, she's a family practitioner with Community Health Net over in Northwest Indiana. She has locations throughout Northwest Indiana. She'll be giving us an update tonight on COVID-19, as well as the vaccination. It's flu season, as well as she's going to offer advice on how to keep your family healthy and safe during this holiday season. And then, as you guys all know, we're only 18 days away from Christmas. 18 days. For a lot of people, the holidays are a very hard time of the year. So joining us tonight is a certified life coach and best-selling author, Kamini Wood. She'll be here tonight to talk to us about just how not to get in a rut during the holiday season, how to make yourself feel better, and do the right things that are necessary to keep your energy up. Okay, so it should be a great show. I'm just waiting on our co-host to join us at any particular moment now, so that we can get the hot topics dialogue kicked off for the evening. Thank you guys so much for your love, support, and participation in this show every night. There are some of you all who are very faithful to watching this show every night, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. For those of you all that kind of tip in, tip out, that's okay. Do me a favor, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the show, The Real Chat Daddy Show. It's free. It does not cost you anything. You'd help me out a great deal. It's really easy and simple on Facebook or YouTube. And right there, you're able to find out more information about the show and how you can be a part of the show, because we have some really great shows. I have a holiday concert coming up very soon that you and your family will enjoy. And we have a couple of other things that are surprises that will be happening before this month is over. All right, very good. All right, well, let's start off with our latest COVID-19 update numbers. Illinois public health officials announced today 8,691 new confirmed or probable cases of COVID-19. Unfortunately, we had 90 additional fatalities. This brings the total number of unknown infections in the state of Illinois now, well, actually known cases, not unknown, but known cases of infection to 796,264, with a statewide death total now being 13,343 since the start of the pandemic. The new news comes as Governor J.B. Pritzker said Monday that Illinois is entering what could be the most critical month of this entire pandemic. The period between Thanksgiving and the start of the string of the December holidays is what will see an uptick in the number of COVID-19 cases. And just from being on social media this past weekend, I didn't see it here in Chicago, but I did see it in other places that people were having just really huge gatherings and parties and celebrations. And I don't understand people going live and people don't have masks on. We'll have to talk about that with our co-host, because I just don't get that. Here's the deal. I understand people wanting to get out, do some things, you really shouldn't. I'm not here to be the police on that. But I'm looking at the fact that so many people have been going live at events and just don't care. And I just think, how reckless is that, as well as you're, putting other people out there. So I don't know, but that's it. When Dr. Janet Seabrook comes on tonight, she'll give us the lowdown and update on everything. All right, well, let's bring our guest in. My nose is itching. What does that mean? My goodness, I feel like a rabbit sitting here. Our co-host is businessman and the chief guy behind Two Guard Media. Our good friend, Mr. Kevin Ross, is back. He was here with us last Monday, and he's back here with us tonight. Brother.
Peace, love, and hair grease.
Oh, absolutely. I love good hair grease, as you can see. I do. How are you,
Absolutely.
Kevin?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, speaking of good hair, yours is beautiful always, brother. Thank
Thank you.
you for having me on.
Yeah.
First, all praises to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I got to make sure I get that out there before we start
Yes,
anything
sir.
off. Speaking
Yes.
of good hair, I'm wearing my '90s T-shirt. Remember Damien Dame?
Oh my
Remember,
God.
remember he had the best. He had a perm better than a lot of women that I dated. He had
Yeah.
like the silky. His hair was laid, man. So I got my '90s shirt on today. Tribute to the '90s.
Well,
Damien Dame.
you want to hear a funny story? The hilarious part is when Dion Nicole Smith was our co-host a couple of weeks ago,
Uh huh.
she was talking about how much she loved Jermaine Stewart. And
He was another one.
she did not realize that Jermaine Stewart and I were very good friends. I had the
Okay,
same hairstyle as Jermaine
man.
Stewart. I
Don't
had
you don't you put that picture on social media, because if you do, you know you're my man and all of that. But if you put that picture on, I'm gonna comment on that picture.
Brother, look, let me tell you how good my hair was back then. We were laughing that I would ride the number 6 Jeffrey bus and women would actually run their hands through my hair. People would touch my hair. And this is way before you ain't supposed to touch people's hair. People just couldn't believe that it was my hair. But actually, the same length this hair is now, I had blow dried hair that was the same way. So bone straight
That is
blow dried hair, bone straight.
that is hilarious. We don't have to take our clothes
Clothes
off.
off. Right. We don't.
Man, that was the joint. I don't care what people say. Yo, that was the joint.
Really?
That
Oh,
was the
look.
song.
One of our viewers said, Art, my nose itching means somebody coming to visit me. Well, I hope so. I really do. And I hope they COVID free. And I hope they're
Yeah,
gonna
that
spend the night.
hope it's not COVID coming to visit your
Right.
Uncle COVID. That's not who we need right
No,
now. That's
no, we
he's
don't want
going to
Uncle COVID.
he's going to about 85% of homes right now.
Do
That's not
you
who we want.
understand? Kevin, you have not lied about that the least little bit.
Hey
You're
man,
absolutely right. I know so many people who have been diagnosed positive recently that it
right?
really does make me wonder. And I've been saying this during this entire pandemic, and no disrespect to anyone who has lost loved ones, no,
Sure.
anybody who is really going through this on a ventilator. But really, Kevin, and I'm going to ask the doctor this tonight, but I believe that there's a little COVID in all of us. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And that it's to degrees of severity, I guess, because
Right.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I don't wish it on anyone. But I do know several people who have recently said that they tested positive for COVID. So,
I actually have had two people that were close to me, and I won't name those people obviously for the sake of privacy, but one person actually both people fell ill from it. One person didn't know that that's what it was to them because they
hmm
didn't go, but as describing the symptoms and whatnot, I was able to kind of help them ascertain based on just kind of my observations and experiences that they probably had COVID. It was a good 90%
Wow.
chance that that's what they went through with all of the symptoms, and so it's just, man, look, I'm just at a point. Look, let me show you something. I'm so serious about it. Every time I come in, this is not a joke. This is not to be funny.
Yes.
I pour this on my hands, followed by this
hmm
by Suave cocoa butter lotion and
Right.
alcohol. I'm not playing around, brother.
No, I'm not either. I'm with you 100%, brother. I'm not playing around. I feel it's, something serious that we really need to look into.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like you. Whenever I go somewhere, I have sanitizing wipes. I have
Mm-hmm.
disinfectant spray. I carry everything with me, gloves, mask, all of that. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we're the issue that we're dealing with and the difficulty, and one of the things that this pandemic I think is bringing to light is the very selfish nature of Western civilization and Western culture. Very
hmm
much me, myself, and I.
Right.
Not understanding that the person next to you now is just as important as you are. You
Mhm.
need to treat the person next to you as important as you would treat yourself or any family member. Even if you don't think that you can get it or spread it, you have to assume that you can. the new thing that I'm hearing now is you must assume that you either have it, you can spread it, or you can get it. Those are the
That's
only
right.
three choices that you have, and you must
Right.
have that mindset, even though it has not been proven to you.
That's
And
right.
I think that's part of the difficulty that we're experiencing is that we're in a culture, we live in a culture that is so self oriented. I mean,
Hmm.
self entertainment, self indulgence, and all of those things. And it is really causing us a problem. I think the last time I saw us unite as a culture, when we had a unilateral issue that everyone could sort of relate to, was 9/11. So during 9/11, you could feel 9/11. You know, you all of us have been on a plane.
Right.
So we can imagine the horror of being on an airplane and have it taken over. All of us have been up in probably in a tall building at one point or another, or an office building or something of that nature, and can imagine what would happen if there was a suddenly an attack or some type of accident or anything. We could relate to that somehow. We were able to pull together as a nation, and we understood when those lines were super long at the airport. We
Hmm.
understood when security was doubled and tripled at sports arenas and concert
Right.
venues. We got it.
Hmm.
Somehow we
Right.
got it. But somehow we have, since that time, we have not grown. And I believe we've actually regressed quite a
Yes.
bit because
Yes.
somehow we can't seem to have that same type of mindset and same type of understanding that we had during 9/11. And it's unfortunate because this is
Yes.
a very similar situation.
Which is very true. Amy Watson, one of our viewers. Oh, hey, Janice Knox, Miss Janice Knox. I love her. Amy Watson just put a comment up. People are more terrified of a virus with a 99.98% survival rate than they are of cancer. And she's absolutely right. I was more afraid of my cancer diagnosis than I had been of COVID. And again,
Right.
my heart goes out to anybody who has really been suffering and going through it. Anybody who has lost a loved one. I get it. I understand. My deepest condolences and prayers always. But I
Right.
guarantee you the cancer thing to me is a much more unknown factor now versus,
Right.
with COVID. So yes.
Right. Well, again, we're as human beings and as people, we are naturally we lean towards the negative, and
Right.
so we don't really lean towards the positive. Our first thought is usually about unpleasantness, and then the second thought after that is how can I avoid that? How
Hmm.
can I avoid that something unpleasant? We anything pleasant we're great with.
Right.
We're fine with whatever the outcome is going to be. That's great as long as it's pleasant. We're good. But when it's unpleasant, that's something that
It's a
we don't
whole
do
nother
well.
beast. That's right.
We don't do well with that, and so we're uncomfortable right now. And people do not realize the seriousness. And when I hear things like uh, people say things like, well, Kevin, this is a government conspiracy, or they're adding on to these deaths. If you go in for pneumonia, they're calling it COVID. I
Right.
don't care. I don't care what you call it. That's still 270 graves, 270 funerals. I'm sorry,
Right.
270,000 graves, 270,000 funerals,
Hmm.
270,000 real people and real Americans that are dead.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what we think at this point about how it got here or who did it or whatever. It's here, and we need to understand that it's here, and we need to deal with it. And that's
We
that's
do.
the big thing. We really
Yeah.
have to deal with it. And the
Hmm.
other thing I wanted to add too, Art, and I'll let you jump into our other topics. Understand this clearly, that a vaccine does not mean the end of COVID-19.
Oh no.
So
No.
let's not get excited. Let's
No.
not get all happy about that. A
Right.
vaccine does not necessarily mean just the end of COVID-19 so we can
Right.
relax. That's not the plan. We
Yes.
still will have to practice mitigation efforts, and there's some things we are months away
Right.
from any type of real relief from this. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
That's something for us to
Oh,
keep in mind.
absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people anytime employers are telling people now you may not be returning until August of
Right,
next year, that's an
right,
indication and sign.
Right.
Anytime major artists and entertainers are talking about they may not be on tour at all in 2021,
Right.
that's a
Right.
major sign. I mean, there are so many things that are out here that are just saying blatantly, this is not going to be over right away. I find
It's
it
not.
interesting that Chicago public school systems, they're going to go back in. Other school systems have tried it. They've spent a lot of money to make sure these children are in a safe environment. But for the president of the public school system to say, if you are a teacher that has not identified with the pre-existing condition and don't come back, you are fired. That's interesting too, because now we're gonna have to deal with a lot of employers who are letting people go because of this.
Well, this is one of the issues in Congress, and part of the stimulus package is a protection for employers for this very reason. And the problem with this is, number one, that what you're basically saying is that the business itself, whatever that business is, and school is a business. These are all businesses. They all cost money. So what you're saying is the business is more important than the person, and that's why the stimulus bill has is trying to include a referendum that protects that does not the Republicans, actually, I don't want to get political here, but they want a referendum in there that says that employers are protected for that very thing that you just said, in case they want to let somebody go who refuses to return to work. Again,
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with a capitalist system. So when you're dealing with capitalism is always going to be the primary concern.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue. The other issue is that here in Illinois and in a couple of other states, you're now starting to see politics enter into the way this is going to be handled and dealt with in terms of a lot of the procedures. You have uh, uh, courts on these local levels now. You have churches that are going to court now and suing for the right to open. You have restaurants going to court, and there's a lot of pressure on Pritzker and on Lori Lightfoot. There's a lot of political pressure on the two of them, and they're trying to find a middle ground for how we're going to be able to accomplish this.
Yes, I agree. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, a couple of things we need to talk about before we move on. Today, we got some really sad news that a Hollywood actress that a lot of us just loved and adored. She was originally from Alexandria, Louisiana. She went to Grambling State University. Actress Natalie Denzel Reed passed away today at the age of 53. It is being reported that she was battling colon cancer, much like our late friend Chadwick Boseman, and she never mentioned anything about her battle with colon cancer, and she was diagnosed at the beginning of this year.
Wow. Well, our prayers and condolences go out to her friends, fans, and family. This is a tough time for everyone. Whatever someone passes from, the passing of people has been doubled and tripled this year. It seems like we're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with a loss pretty much every other day at this point. Last week, David Prowse, the actor who portrayed Darth Vader, um,
Yes.
a very active older gentleman. He actually passed, and now it's been revealed that he passed away from COVID-19.
Oh no, because at first they didn't know what it was from. So
Yes, it
okay,
was confirmed
right.
by his children that it was COVID-19. They wanted to keep that. They wanted to keep that internal until they were able to speak about it. But apparently, he passed away from complications related to COVID-19. And this was a
Wow.
big six. This is a guy that was 6'8",
Right,
very
right.
big, strong
Yes,
guy.
yes.
But 85, he succumbed to this virus. And again, we can't. Art and myself can't reiterate enough
Right.
how much you must take this serious.
That's right.
Really
That's
must.
right. I'm looking forward to talking to Dr. Janet Seabrook tonight because she really gives it to us straight. She lays it all down, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to tell us tonight. And we just have to follow the advice of, what we need to do to all stay safe. All right. Well, with that being said, we are so sorry about the loss of our good girlfriend, Miss Natalie Denzel Reed. We want to wish a happy 102nd birthday to historian and all-around great guy, Mr. Timyo Black. He turned
Yes.
102 years old today. Mr.
Wow.
Black lives here in Chicago, civil rights activist, professor, just a really spry man. If you call and talk
Hmm.
to him, he still talks to you, and you know, and just really good. So they did a drive-by celebration for him today to honor his 102nd birthday. And so shout out to him. 102. Kevin, can you imagine yourself at 102?
I actually have imagined myself at 102, and I still look the same. That's why they call it imagination.
Oh, is that what it is? You would be looking the same. I don't
I'm still
know.
looking. I'm almost 60. I mean, come on,
Oh,
man. Come
okay. All
on,
right.
brother.
All
Come
right.
on,
All
brother.
right. That
Hey,
gives me hope.
another happy birthday. I'm a bit late, but happy birthday to Frankie Beverly, who
Yes.
recently has struggled with some health concerns. But I definitely want to. Yeah, I met this guy. He is one of the most humble entertainers. A great gentleman, a great brother, a great griot. So a happy birthday. I'm almost a day late, brother, but happy birthday to the great Frankie Beverly.
You know what? I had the chance. I've met Frankie Beverly twice. And the
Hmm.
first time that when I met him, I had no idea it was him because when he walks in a room, you're right. It's just like a cousin, a uncle, or you know,
Right.
he's not one with you know a huge entourage, and he
Nope.
he was so laid back and
Yep.
you go, oh my God, this is Frankie Beverly. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's really a nice man. He really is.
He walks right in. He walks into catering backstage and he goes right to the cheese. You wouldn't even know it was him.
Yes, I know. He's just such a great guy. So yes, all right. We also want to acknowledge today is D-Day. Today was the attack on Pearl Harbor. And so we want to remember everyone who was a part of D-Day as well too. So Kevin, how
Hmm.
was your weekend?
Weekend was good, man. I started last week. No more sugar. A gallon of water a day, and I started this flush out and this flushing, and then some great praying over the weekend. And just I can honestly say that during this pandemic, the best thing that's happened for me is my relationship with God has gotten
Okay.
better.
Nice.
I've really focused on him because I've had to lean on him. I've had some times, and I think you see me on social media. I'm very open about the fact, and that's why I'm looking forward to both of our guests tonight. That I'm no different than anybody else. Just because I hang around Eric Benet and Tyreek, that means nothing. I struggled just as much as everyone else has, especially during the beginning of this pandemic. It's pretty much a daily and a weekly negotiation that you have to have with yourself about how you're going to move forward and the fact that you are going to move forward. So I stayed prayed up. This weekend was good for me. I did some exercising, rode my bike even in 36-degree weather, and got some exercise. And I've got some exciting new clients coming, so everything's good, man. God is good. God is good.
Good. I must agree. I feel the same way too, Kevin. Just being able to do some things and branch out and expand my brand and not necessarily, you know, I've seen a couple of t-shirts that said once this pandemic is over, there'll be certain people I don't care to see even after it's over. And I agree.
Right, right.
I'm so excited to just start a new chapter, a new direction, and it's all is well worth it. It really is.
It's a cleansing, and yes, it's painful, and yes, it's uncomfortable at times, and it's unprecedented. There's no question about that. But it is indeed a cleansing. It is a clarification of a lot of things. I've had people tell me that they realize who their real friends are. Some people now are looking at friends and family in a different way, especially those who haven't respected the severity of this public health crisis. No matter how close they were to that person, they expected different. And so now that affects the relationship going forward. I think that we have to kind of take what we're being shown and utilize that as we grow. Grow. These are growing pains. These are God's growing pains.
You're absolutely right about that. 100%. All right. So what else we got going on, brother?
Hey, I guess we should get to hot topics and the fact that I've been behind on my rent before. but not as much as some other people.
Man, I
Whew,
saw that today and I could not believe that. I guess singer
man,
R. Kelly is
right.
behind on his rent so much that he ended up the please help me understand this story a little bit better. What's the deal?
Sure. So basically, when you're an artist, and you've written songs and you have what's called a catalog of songs, which is basically a collection of your work.
Right.
Well, you continue to collect monies on those. They're called royalties, and those monies continue to come to you. They go into an account. It can be your personal account, or it can be an account held by whatever record label holds the rights to your music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like having another bank account somewhere. And apparently, what's happened with Robert R. Kelly is that he has owed back rent on the studio space over on the west side, and there were a couple of cases that were pending. However, this case took precedence, and so they took the money from this other account, which totals, I believe, he's lost a total of 3.5 million. But this particular case that you sent to me was, I believe, 1.5. I think that's all they could get because they're trying to divide these monies up. 1.5 million, and they seized it as the IRS or anybody else would in order to pay these debts that are owed in terms of his rent for that
Wow.
space and repairs,
Wow.
rent and
Wow.
repairs. Obviously,
Right.
and the space, I had an opportunity to actually go online and look. The space is now being renovated, but it is up for sale. So
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Poor R. Kelly. It's amazing how at one point R. Kelly was just this humble young man that was playing music in the subways and on the streets. Next
right.
thing you know, he becomes this major superstar. And now for his life to have dwindled down like that and for him to be, where he is in life, it's just unbelievable to me.
It's unfathomable, but what I think is even more important to remember while we're, sharing memes or sharing jokes or being critical or whatever we're doing is to remember that Robert is a person that needs help. He needed
Hmm.
help, and he didn't get help when he needed it. He's been a victim himself of sexual abuse. And subject, when people are subjected to that, and then there's a failure all the way around. There's a failure by the person who subjects the other person to this. Then there's a failure of the system to help people and to
Right.
help those who may be in need. And as we're talking tonight about mental health, let's bear in mind that that's mental and emotional health is a very serious issue in the Black community.
It
And
is.
Robert is actually a very prime example of what can happen to you. I mean, this is a man who contributed to the soundtracks of Space Jam,
That's right.
the Greatest by Muhammad Ali. I forgot about that song. He did The Greatest for Muhammad
That's right.
Ali, the Will
Yep.
Smith.
Yep.
I mean, he's just a dynamic songwriter and
I mean, if you
probably
if
one.
if you think about the stepping community, a lot of
If you
his
think about all that,
songs, they are
sure,
anthems for the stepping
right,
community. So, it makes you
right.
wonder.
Yeah, it's unquestionable that he's one of the most prolific songwriters of the 20th century, and in popular music. But none of that matters if you don't get the help that you need, and that's what
Right.
we're going to talk about tonight: is mental and emotional health. It's vital, very
Yeah, it
vital.
is. It is. It's very vital to just say the least. It really, really is. All right. Well, what else we got on that list? I think what was this about somebody selling their music catalog today? I heard
So
some
Bob Dylan.
yes.
So Bob Dylan, over 600 songs.
Wow.
What you're finding a lot now is that a lot of artists who made their money touring and doing shows are now being forced to go to, again, that bank, that separate bank account, and leverage those assets in order to live and in order to make it through these extremely difficult times. A few weeks ago, L.A. Reid sold his music catalog, over to a holding company. So what you're finding is, again, just like everybody else, when your regular stream of revenue is interrupted, you basically have to go to, if you're a musician, what would be considered your 401k. And a
Right.
lot of times that's your catalog. So that's Bob Dylan, who has a great catalog of songs. Bob Dylan was one of the few white folk singers who was also very instrumental in the civil rights movement in the 60s
Hmm.
and 70s.
Yes, he was.
So he sold his catalog as well. It's a really tough time in the music business right now. It's a
Yes.
tough time. It's a great time in terms of innovation and pivoting and expanding your brand and understanding that you cannot just depend on one or two things anymore. I've seen some artists now doing great with their merchandising. Erica Badu probably has the best online merchandising shop that I've seen for a contemporary music artist right now. Her merchandise is moving very well. So but it's a difficult time. It's a very
Wait a
difficult
minute,
time.
Kevin. Wait a minute. You remember the beginning of the year? We were joking about the fact that Erica Badu was selling, what was it, candles
Candles that
that's
smelled like,
her vagina, and
yes,
we were like, what the hell? Who would do something like that?
those were
Well,
big movers, my friend.
do
Those
you
candles
understand
went
me?
out.
Right, like it was almost she knew something was coming. You get what I'm saying?
Erica's a great business person. Understand that when the pandemic first hit, she was one of the first artists to actually monetize her live stream from her house.
She
She's
sure
a
did.
great business person, great
Yep.
businesswoman.
I noticed that Shaka Khan is now doing that. Shaka Khan recently
Absolutely.
had a concert. Other
Love
artists,
her.
other artists are doing the same way. You know, me starting a TV show and doing what I'm
Sure.
doing here. The way I look at it, I'm doing nothing else. Why not continue to do what it is that I do? But I am going to have to talk about how PR people are shading me now, and that's a whole
Hmm.
thing. I'm gonna actually write that up and put that out there, and I'm not going to mention who it is. But it's interesting.
Sure.
I'm thinking to myself, this is actually a better medium because people get to see this, they get to share it, they get instant gratification from it. And,
Hmm.
and so, I don't know, but it's interesting. But we've got to learn how to pivot during times like this.
Absolutely. And I think what people forget is that there will be an after this. And we have an opportunity here to either be better than we were going in or to be worse than we were going in. And that includes our relationships. That
Yes.
includes whoever's shading you, however they're shading you. I've had some people that were shading me before all of this. I wasn't on some committees and some things that people were asking me, well, how come you're not on this committee? Or how come you're not part of this? And I'm okay with that because God puts you where you're supposed to be,
Yep.
not where you want to be. And that's fine. But what I really hope coming out of this, and this is obviously, this is my favorite platform. So I'm going to utilize the Art Chat Daddy Sim show to say this, that if going into this, you had personal problems with people, or you were excluding someone for something, or you're shading somebody, or whatever, or in Art, in your case, somehow people still think that only one medium or two mediums are the only way to get exposure. Let me explain something to you clearly. Things are changing now at a weekly rate. It used to be they changed monthly or maybe yearly. Right now, social media is moving so fast. We went from Boomerang to TikTok to all of these other different mediums now, to Reels on Instagram. There's no one medium that you can now depend on specifically. You should be looking at all mediums and every opportunity that you have to get exposure. I don't care who your client is.
That's
I don't
right.
care if it's the Real Chat Daddy Show or
That's right.
MSNBC.
That's
We're
right.
we're we're not in a time anymore where you can just bank on one or two things and continue to use these traditional methods. They are not going to be effective moving forward. There are too many choices in this world, guys. So
That's
that's
right.
just my little marketing lesson
No,
for
you're
for
right.
people out
You're
there.
absolutely right. You'd be surprised the number of people who will send me pitches, and these are not the PR people who normally know me. And I'll say, "Oh, what a great idea!" And I'll say, "Well, by the way, I pivot. I started my own. I did something different. Crickets, cricket."
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
okay. That's okay. Because I have
right.
other people who are saying, no, we're sticking with you, we're supporting you, and we're going to continue
Absolutely,
to
man.
move in that direction. And speaking of, our first guest this evening is a prime example of that commitment and dedication. When I first met Dr. Janet Seabrook, I just loved and adored her from that first day. Wish she could be my personal doctor because she is just so passionate about healing the body from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, and not only just on the inside, but she wants you to feel well, just spiritually.
Right.
And I just think she's the most unique person ever. And when I had to make my pivot, she continued to stay by my side. Ladies and
Hmm.
gentlemen, let's welcome back to the show our dear friend. I call her the queen. Well, the queen of Gary, but no, she's actually the queen of Northwest Indiana. She's just not Gary. Ladies and gentlemen, family medicine practitioner and the CEO. When I say CEO, do you know she's the CEO, Kevin? Did you know that?
CEO is Chief
She is the
Executive
she
Officer.
is she is the chief executive officer. She's the head woman in charge. We just love and adore her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Our good friend, Dr. Janet Seabrook. Doctor, hey,
Hello, hello.
how
It's
are
been such
you?
a long time. I'm
I
doing
know.
well. I'm doing
Doc,
well.
your hair looks amazing. It's so you is that your holiday hair? You look good.
I got it done probably about a week before Thanksgiving. Thank you so
See
much.
that? See that? I know holiday hair when I see it. I do. How you been, doctor?
Been doing pretty well. I do the same thing every day. I go to work, I come home, I cook, I go to bed, and I get up and I do the same the next day. And the only
So
time that I don't is on the weekends.
okay,
That's it.
okay. So now, Doc, you actually cook dinner every day?
Yes.
Oh my God, how traditional is that? Look, it's been a long look, Doc. Look, I had two guys just text. Is she married? Right, right,
I'm getting ready to say, put that hand up, sister. Wear that right hand. Put it
right,
up.
right, right. Put that ring up there.
I ain't no
Look,
ring on these fingers, and I can guarantee you
wow.
that
Doc,
I got the Whopper, the Impossible Whopper today from Burger King because I just did not want to cook. I'm just gonna be real transparent here with everybody.
wow.
I made linguine tonight. I put some mussels in it, some garlic, lemon, pepper flakes. Yeah. What else did I put on it? I put some calamari because I had some calamari, so I said dump that in there. But I
Okay.
kind of I put them in a little olive oil of calamari to the side to get a little singe on them before I dump them over in the linguine with the mussels.
Oh my God.
Oh
Look.
my goodness!
Look, women like Dr. Seabrook is hard to find in this day and age. Look, just anybody that
Look!
wants to know cook dinner.
I'm about to
Right.
fall off the screen. I'm
Right.
off the screen.
Right.
Fall
Like,
off the
like
screen. I'm
she's
out.
a
Oh Jesus!
phenomenon. She's a phenomenon. Are you kidding
Oh
me?
gee whiz! I'm like, man, I'm telling you, man, I was in line at Burger King
Oh
tonight, this
Lord.
evening, until so I could rush back to jump on the Art Chat Daddy show as a co-host. I said, "Give me the Impossible Whopper and give me 5 of those nuggets."
Right. Yes. Amen.
So I
Right.
had not been introduced to the it's called Impossible Burger Meat, and they have it at the grocery store. So
Hmm.
my daughter's home, so she went to the store for me last week, a week before. But anyway, I made Impossible Burgers at home last
Okay,
week. That's what we had,
good.
and
Okay.
they liked it. That was my first time having it, and it
Okay.
was
Yeah,
really
the
good. I
Impossible.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Impossible meat is good, and Lighthouse also has a meat substitute. I just discovered their sausage is great, so
Very
I'm
good.
getting into it. It took me about a year to kind of make the transition, but I'm getting into it.
Very good. Well, Dr. Seabrook, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us. Happy holidays. We always start the month off with our medical update with you. Let's talk about the latest with COVID, the vaccination, and even the flu season. So go right ahead.
So, thank you so much again for the invitation to be able to bring this updated information to everybody. As you know, that we continue to suffer with COVID-19. The deaths are continuing to increase, and it's really very unfortunate. We have now over 280,000 Americans that have passed away of COVID-19. And what we're facing right now is what you and I had talked about a few months ago. Early in the summer or right toward the end of the spring, you and I had talked about how flu season would possibly look if we were still suffering with COVID-19. And those things that we talked about and that I predicted, those things are happening right now because doctors are having to deal with not only the upcoming flu season or the flu season that we're in, we're also having to deal with trying to determine if someone has COVID or not. And so what my health center is doing is that we're able to do rapid or quick testing on patients that we believe have symptoms. We're not letting them come into the office. We're asking them to call us and tell us what's going on with them. And then we are bringing them to, it's sort of a drive up at one of our locations where we're able to go out, collect the samples and bring it back in and run the test. And then within 24 hours, sometimes less than that, we can let them know their status. If they're still having symptoms and they're not sure and they know they have been exposed, we tell them to quarantine for another 5 days. And then when they start having symptoms, to come back and we'll retest. And what we're finding out is that people have continued to have, I think we're suffering from COVID fatigue now.
We are.
And so people they're going out, they've been getting together, and within 2 to 3 weeks, we're seeing that community spread. They're coming to the office and getting tested, and then we have to report to them that they are positive. Now, we've been doing telehealth visits and just visiting with them through that medium, which is helping patients to stay in their house, to quarantine at home, to not have to come into the doctor's office. We don't have to use our PPE when we're doing a telehealth visit with them. So that's helping to save on PPE. But what it's also doing is preventing the spread throughout the community. If they're staying in their home and they're seeing us and we're able to log in through a secure portal and talk to them, to walk them through the things that they can expect with COVID. Now, what we are finding is that because people are so concerned and there has been so much, how can I say, just like focus, laser focus on COVID, people who don't normally get flu vaccines have been requesting flu vaccines.
Oh, I would imagine. Yep.
So we're not seeing a lot of cases of flu because people were, or early on, even before October 1st, they were asking in September, can I get my flu shot? Well, usually across the United States, the flu shots are all pretty much sent out around the same time to all of the health centers, doctors' offices, hospitals that request them. We start usually getting them sometime in September. And we got them this year around about end of August, midweek in September. And so we were able to start giving those doses out like right at the end of September, first week in October, we were ready to start vaccinating patients, and they were lined up and ready to go because people were wanting to make sure that they were at least protected from the flu. And so they would know that if they did have some other symptoms, that it most likely would be COVID. So we're just really trying to educate people and asking them to still, it's hard, social distance, wear the mask, wash your hands, stay indoors in your own house as much as possible. Do not congregate. People getting tired.
Okay, so Doc, I've got to ask you a couple of questions about the quarantine thing. You know, I recently traveled and I actually stayed 14 days to make sure, made sure I was good before I came back. And then I just finished my 14-day quarantine. So, but now I'm hearing you say 5 days. I'm hearing some people say 7 to 10 days. What are the guidelines for quarantining now?
So for us, we're still saying the same 14 days. The CDC has reduced the amount of time. So I'm going to be reviewing those, and that's the information that I would be giving my patients. However, I still do have some concerns because sometimes people don't have symptoms right away. And I'm not comfortable right now shortening it to anything less than 5 days and having them, but I still don't have them in the office. We give them a phone call and we find out what type of symptoms that they're having. And now that we have the quick test, it's really easy for us to be able to find out if our patients are positive or not. But right now, we're still doing the 14-day quarantine, even though the CDC, there are some that are recommended that we can shorten it to 10 days. I've heard about it on the news, but Dr. Seabrook has not sat down and went to the CDC site and looked at those new recommendations yet. So once I do that and I feel comfortable, then I'll tell my staff and I'll talk to the rest of the doctors and see where they are with that. And then we'll come to a determination of what our quarantine will now look like for Community Health Net.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this also. So, Doc, you find out you're positive. What is the next step? And especially if you're not symptomatic. So, do you wait for symptoms? Because, I was telling a friend the other day, I wake up every day with the same congestion. That's the congestion I've had for years. I
Right.
wake up with the same damn body ache every day.
Mhm.
Here's the deal. I might wake up one day and can't smell. I pass gas. I know I'm alive. I can smell it. So what how would one know if anything is different? You know what I'm saying?
So everybody's different. You know your body better than I would know your body. However, are those aches and pains the exact same aches and pains that you always have? Is there something really different about that? Did you lose your sense of taste along with that sense of smell? Okay, so those are some of the other symptoms. A lot of people are complaining about diarrhea.
Okay.
So there are some other things. So some people are complaining about sore throat and a persistent cough that will not go away no matter what they do about it. So here's the thing. On a serious note, if you believe that you have been exposed or you are unsure if you have been exposed, you need to quarantine and contact your doctor, your healthcare provider, and find out next steps. Don't go into their office, call them, and you talk to that nurse or the person that answers the phone, the operator, and you tell them your situation. I think I may have COVID. I think I might have been exposed, whatever your condition is, your situation. And you make it clear to them that you need to speak with your doctor so you can get the advice that fits what Chat Daddy needs and not what anybody else needs. So you get that information straight from your healthcare provider, not from the television, not from some Facebook page or some, goofball website or anything like that. You get it straight from your doctor and you tell them, because then they will be able to tell you, because a lot of times they have information about what's going on in the community. And maybe you could say that you were at a local grocery store or you stopped at this area. They will know if that's a hot spot. And then they will be able to better direct you as to what you should do. Most will advise you to go and get tested.
Okay, so we recently heard that LA County has closed back down all the restaurants, beauty shops, places that had closed down in Illinois and Indiana months ago. California, LA County has closed all that down. Do you think that our nation might have to close down again? And I know our president-elect wants everybody to wear masks for 100 days straight. Do you think any of this will help, Doc, or do you think it'll just keep spreading?
So here's the problem with that. Unfortunately, the genie is out of the bottle. The horse is out of the barn, as they say, as those sayings go. It's going to be very difficult to get everybody to cooperate if we go on another nationwide lockdown.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. So it really now needs to be targeted to just those communities, just those counties where the outbreaks are. So if I'm someplace in a rural area and we don't have any COVID, then I shouldn't be on lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm in a large city and we have very few cases and we're very well contained and we have people that are still being able to go to work, the children in our district are in school, I'm just giving an example, then we should not have to be on lockdown. It should be targeted and tailored to those communities that are having the outbreaks, where the community spread is the thickest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kevin, do you have a question for the doctor?
I do. I wanted to pivot a little bit, Doctor. And first of all, thank you for being on and contributing to the more edification here. in terms of something that's very unprecedented, and on a daily basis, we're hearing so many different things. Let's talk a little bit, and this is a complex issue, so I'll try to keep it as simple and streamlined as I can. Right now, one of the top trending topics is vaccinations. And what I've said is that let's not look at a vaccination as a vaccine as a cure-all. That doesn't mean that we get to relax once the vaccines arrive and once they figured out a distribution system and whatnot. I really believe that would be a mistake to feed into the fact that we think a vaccine is going to fix all of this suddenly. What do you hear about vaccines, and what is your advice as people are asking so many questions right now about the efficacy of a vaccine, distribution of a vaccine? This is a very complex issue. What is your opinion on that?
So thank you so much, because that is an excellent question. Thank you for bringing up the vaccines. This is very important as well. So right now, the vaccines that have been created and that are in their phase 3 trials that are closest to being produced and sent out, which they say in the next couple of weeks, are the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. Now, the Pfizer and Moderna, everyone has been hearing a lot about the 95% efficacy, but they've also been hearing a lot about the storage of those vaccines. And that's the difficulty right now. Pfizer has to be stored at minus 70 degrees. There are not a lot of places that have freezers that store at minus 70 degrees. That's colder than the winter in Antarctica.
Yes,
That's
it is.
how cold
Yes.
minus
Yes, it
70 is.
Yes.
So it has to be stored in dry ice. The dry ice has to be changed every 5 days if you don't have that minus 70 degree freezer. So there are hospitals sparsely located throughout the United States that do have freezers that will go down that deep. So in communities such as mine, we have several hospitals. So they will be the distribution sites to get those out to the smaller health entities, doctors' offices, or either where people will be able to refer their patients to and say, you can go to XYZ hospital because they have the deep freezer to be able to get your vaccine. Here are the drawback, and let me back up a little bit. The Moderna vaccine is able to be stored at minus 20, which is just like a regular freezer. So we have the minus 70 Pfizer and the Moderna that can be stored at minus 20, which most people will have in their doctor's offices and at local health clinics. Here's the issue. They're both the 2-dose vaccine. So after 3 to 5 weeks of your first dose, you have to go back and get your second dose.
Right.
So what that means is to be able to make sure that they have your second dose. So say they produce 20 million doses of the Pfizer that's stored at the minus 70. They really only have 10 million doses. So if someone comes to our health center and they've only given us 25 doses, that's all that we have. We have 50 vials, but we have 25 doses of medication.
Right.
Because when I give you that one, I have to take that second vial and put your name on it and put it back in the freezer. I can't use that on anybody else. So and so what if you don't show back up? Or if I have somebody in desperate need and I only have that one vial left and has your name on it, you'll pass your 5 weeks and I give it away to somebody else. Then you walk in 5 weeks and 1 day and want your other vial.
Right.
So
understood.
That's the difficulty. That's just one difficulty. First of all, you have to convince people to take it.
Right.
So,
right.
How do you convince people that barely want to take
because that's a question we have up here. Will you get it, and do you trust it?
Right. You can't. Most people, you can't get to take one shot, and now you're asking them to come back 3 or 5 weeks later and get another shot.
Right.
And someone is asking, do I trust it? I don't want to get 2 doses. I want to get the 1-dose vaccine. So I want to try to wait on the 1-dose vaccine. Hopefully it will be over 95% effective as well. But I think that the community that is in one place, and let me give 2 examples, because this is how it's going to be distributed anyway. The hospitals and the nursing homes across the United States, where all the healthcare workers and hospital employees, because most people think of hospitals as doctors and nurses, where there are people who have to clean the rooms.
Yep.
There are people who drive staff all over the place. There are people who go pick up medications.
Yep.
There are people,
Sure.
hospitals employ thousands of
Yep.
people. So
Yep.
all of those employees, anybody who comes in touch with that hospital facility, who works in there for any amount of time during the day, is considered a hospital employee, even down to the IT person.
That's
so those
right.
vaccines are going to be given to them and to any patients that are in the hospital at that time. And then that dose, if they're there in the hospital and they're not there when they get their discharge, now you got to try and figure out where they're going to be when they get discharged so you can get it to their doctor's office. Because remember that vial has their name on it.
Right, right.
So
right.
when you have you have this in the hospital, all of your employees, you know they're going to be there hopefully in 5 weeks. So you save their dose. Now we got to look at the nursing homes and other long-term care facilities that take care of patients. That's probably where those 2-dose vaccines should be, because those patients are going to be there long-term. And then we look at the general population and general community. And I'm hoping that by the time it gets to the general population, which should be April, May, early spring, early summer, that they would have perfected the 1-dose vaccine. So then we'll have more people who have seen the 2-dose vaccine and what it has done and how people have responded to it. And then maybe they'll feel more comfortable taking the 1-dose vaccine. The other thing that I'm hoping for is that we get more African-American people in the vaccine trials and more people of Hispanic descent and Native American, because our numbers are not as large in the clinical trials. So I'm hoping that as the 2-dose vaccines are distributed, that as they're working on the 1-dose vaccines, the closer we get to spring and summer, that those 1-dose vaccines would have gotten more people in their clinical trials that look like us, that we can then see what their response would be. Because right now, there are low numbers for minorities. It's not being tested on children younger than 12 years old, and those trials just recently started, and it has not been tested on pregnant women. There are no pregnant women in clinical trials. So we still have this unknown population.
That's right.
People that we don't know how they're going to respond to the vaccine.
Wow.
Well, first of all, congratulations. I just fell in love, and I don't fall in love easily. So you please congratulate yourself. The second thing is, she changed the colors. Isn't that cute?
I love her. I told you she's our favorite doctor on this show, and
I do not have a wife or a personal physician. So gee whiz, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to fill both those positions? Anyway,
Doc, flash that ring again, Doc. Doc, put that ring up on that camera. Right, put that ring up there. Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
But in all seriousness, thank you for addressing that. The other pressing question that I had, and you answered it in a sense, was that we've heard about the trials, but we haven't heard about those who may have pre-existing conditions, and were they in those trials? I have heard nothing about people who may have diabetes, people who may be, as Art is, a cancer survivor, or myself, who has suffered from a heart attack previously and whatnot. And I've heard nothing about that. They've said nothing, and I was very curious as to where we were with that, because that's a large issue that is really impacting people of color.
And so what will happen is that we'll have the largest batch of people in an active clinical trial when they start vaccinating the people in nursing homes. And that's when we're literally going to find out in larger numbers what's going to happen, because mainly the clinical trials are looking at people who are young and healthy, or either in their 40s and 50s with low risk. The amount of people that are high risk that are in these trials, it's not there. So we're going to find out really when people in nursing homes are vaccinated.
Wow. Great
And
information. Thank you.
it is. And to me, that's an interesting population, though. And I hate to say this, but imagine, auntie or grandma is in the nursing home. They've done well so far. Because I even think about the vaccination, doc. They get the first shot, and let's say they don't die from the COVID, but they just die naturally. What would happen to their second shot of the vaccination? That's again wasted vaccination,
Right. So if it's not wasted, it may be put back into the system, their name removed off of it. But these are all the logistics that have to be. I mean, because things happen. Somebody gets their shot, and then something happens to them. They're in a car accident or what have you. They missed their 5-week window. And you wasted that dose. And then do you give them another dose that belongs to somebody else? So there's so many logistics. It's almost like those you seen those diagrams when they'll do the tree diagrams. If this, then this,
right,
this.
And that
type of scenario is going to have to be drawn out, and that's why.
Right.
And you mentioned this earlier, Kevin. It's a logistical nightmare, just not on the distribution side, but the logistics of all of those analogies. If then, if not this, and that type of thing.
And another part of the issue is that when the pandemic, when the virus first hit, we didn't handle it in an organized fashion from the beginning. So trust is already begins to erode systematically here. Then we had a president and an administration that didn't help that any. And then we were unable to institute a really effective testing program, a really effective contact tracing program. And now you're asking the population to trust in a vaccine and a vaccine distribution. I actually saw somewhere that they were considering possibly giving you your $1,500 stimulus check in exchange for taking the vaccine. I mean,
heard that too.
We are a mess.
Oh,
I'm ready to head to France, where they seem to have it. They seem to have it going on over there. They're like, look, this is what it is. This is what we're doing. You were doing this as a nation, as a country, and this is how we're going to beat this. And that's what's going on. And we don't have that, unfortunately.
No, we started out from the beginning, and with anything, you need leadership, and you need great leadership, someone that is going to take responsibility for and be at the helm and lead and guide, and then also rely on people who have the expertise to help stand you up and support you in what you are leading people into, or what challenges we are going forward with as a country. And that did not happen. And unfortunately, we have a public health crisis that was literally politicized. And sometimes I sit back and I wonder how different this would have been in 2019 and not 2020, with 2020 being an election year and things already being so politically divided. So that added another layer of challenges and conflict and confusion. So we could not really face the public health crisis head on, because there were so many other just deviations from the straight path, and then also not really letting people who had the scientific background and knowledge to be able to do their jobs. Because typically when there are public health crises in other countries or continents, we typically gather up our experts and send them over there.
That is
That's
true.
correct. We usually lead. So we usually lead.
Act very smartly on this. And I say this to my close friends all the time. I'm just glad it wasn't Ebola, because if it was, none of us would be having this conversation.
No, we would not be having this conversation.
Right. So I know we're probably running short on time, but I will ask everyone that's listening and watching to look at Australia. Australians were out this weekend on their national mall, and walking about because they locked themselves down for 8 months. They wore masks, they stayed inside, they did everything as a country together. And you know that because Australia is an island, they can pretty much monitor everybody that's coming in. So
Right.
you have to quarantine for 14 days when you come into Australia. Their airport has a hotel attached, and you are directed off the plane into
To that hotel.
for
Wow.
14 days.
Yep.
And
You
then
are.
you get tested before they let you come out to be in the general public.
That's
wow.
right.
They don't have any cases now. Look at us.
Right. No,
A
very
year,
true.
almost a year into it, by the way.
Yes.
Once we get into actually, it really technically this hit us in December of last year is really when the first few cases started to pop up, but they didn't quite know what it was. There were some cases of pneumonia. And so it was really, we are now a year into this and still trying to figure this out as we move forward. And that's just an unfortunate shame that we are where we are, supposed to be a world leader, and yet we have failed. Never mind the fact that this has also exposed our healthcare system, and the weaknesses within our national healthcare system have been exposed as well. You know, so we're looking at a tough time right now. We really are.
So one last thing I'll say is vaccines. You know, once we start to get the vaccines, and I think someone had put in the chat box about 75% of the population. Yes, that is true. 75% of the population, or up to 80%, needs to be vaccinated before we can feel safe and comfortable, and quote unquote, with the herd immunity, because that's not going to happen until at least 75 to 80% of the population are vaccinated. The other thing is, because the vaccine comes and you get vaccinated, that does not mean that your mask comes off your face. We're going to be wearing these masks for a while until we get to that herd immunity, because we still have a population of people, not just African Americans, that are looking side-eye at the vaccines. You have people who just don't do vaccines in general, for their children, much less themselves. So we have so many things that we're going to have to deal with, but that mask is going to have to stay in place.
Or that 73% of that's 73 million people that voted for Donald Trump, who don't believe that any of this is real, who don't believe you should wear a mask, and who don't believe that you should even take a vaccine of any kind. So we still have an eighth of our population that's going to be an issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Seabrook, you got just tons of response tonight, but we do have our next guest. So we may have to have you back on and do a more detailed conversation, because we've had people to ask about lupus. We've even had flight attendants on here wanting to know, you know, would it be mandatory that maybe flight attendants all get this vaccination? So I'll check with your people and see, and we'll just do a evening with Dr. Janet Seabrook real soon.
That would be great.
Yeah, people are loving you and thinking you gave really great information tonight.
She's number one. She's number one. Let's bring her back.
I told you that. I told you.
An evening with Dr. I love an evening with. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me stop. Let me
stop.
Let me get some water. Let me stop.
Right, please drink your water. Go right ahead, Doc.
Going to turn more. My face is going to keep turning red. Stop. One thing I was going to say is that I would love to see these quick tests in airports and big transportation centers where people are congregating at the bus that, you know, the larger bus
at the point of attack
places, where the leaving, where the planes are leaving from, where the trains are leaving from. I would love to see, you know, and then you get your sticker with your negative test, and you take your ticket and your negative test, and you good to go.
You just go. Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Doctor, do me a favor. Tell everybody how they can find you, follow you, all that great stuff. And we're going to do an evening with you very soon. Go right ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So you can go to drjanetseabrook.com. That's my webpage. You can also look for Dr. Janet Seabrook on Facebook, or Community Health Net Health Centers on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can pretty much find me anywhere. You can Google me, Dr. Janet Seabrook, and you'll be able to locate me. The office number is 219-880-1190. Chat Daddy, thank you so much again.
I love you. I do. You are just so amazing. You're so helpful
Absolutely.
to us all. We just put your website up on the screen. We appreciate you so much, Doctor, for taking time out of your busy schedule just to help us navigate our way through this situation, because this is something none of us ever saw coming. And so we are appreciative of everything that you do for us, Doctor. Thank you so very much.
Thank you both and have a good night.
All right,
You
ladies
do
and
the
gentlemen.
same.
Dr. Janet Seabrook, we just love and adore her. The CEO, Community Health Net, located in Northwest Indiana. She also is a columnist, TV personality, and she's a fan favorite here on the show. Good night, Doctor. We love you and God bless. Okay.
Good night.
Thank you for being on. By the way, I had all that information that she gave. Like halfway through the show, I already got it all. So that's
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And I don't care. And I don't. And of course, you know me. I don't care about the office number. That's
Look,
that.
we have other fabulous guests. You guys cannot come on here and flirt with all of my phenomenal guests. I love you all.
I said I was going to control myself, and I can't.
I have even a better guest coming too. Look, tonight is superstar night on this show.
No, I'm good. You can just cut me off now. After her, I'm good. I can just take my box off. I'm fine. Thank you. Good night. Love you guys.
We love you. We do. We do. Thank you so much for having fun with us tonight as well too. Dr. Janet Seabrook, give it up for us. Thank you so much, Doc. We'll talk soon. All right, boy, oh boy, oh boy. For those of you all that are just joining us, welcome to the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show, where every night on this show is a hot mess, but we share a lot of wonderful information to help you and your family. The hot mess in the box next to me is my co-host tonight, businessman and music executive, right, Mr. Kevin Ross. We just love and adore him. And so tonight we're talking about just COVID-19, the flu season, how to protect your family. And a lot of the conversation that I heard earlier fits in perfect with our next guest tonight. People are really depressed, Kevin. People don't know, what's going to happen next. You really opened my eyes when you said, since December of last year, we technically have been dealing with COVID.
Absolutely, we have. And there is a very real COVID burnout at this point. My mother is 85. She lives in California. And my mother is the strongest, not just the strongest woman I know, but one of the strongest people I know. And she actually, a few weeks ago, she expressed to me that it's beginning to get to her. Can I tell you that this is a woman that raised 4 children on her own after my father passed when I was 12. She managed to go to school, get a master's degree in psychology, be a great mother and a great human being. I have never heard my mom ever say anything has gotten to her, ever, ever. And so 3 weeks ago when I talked to her, 2 weeks ago when I spoke with her, and now I've had to increase the frequency of my phone calls to her, she said that this is beginning to get to her, and that's very significant.
Well, tie in the holiday season now and a pandemic. Well, joining us tonight is board-certified life coach and the author of the book, Life's Gentle Reminders. She is also the founder and CEO of Live Joy Your Way and the Authentic Me Rise Up program. We're honored to welcome this best-selling author and coach, and we got to make sure we're saying her name right, just like Kamala's name. So I'm going to go with Kamini Wood, but it could be Kamini Wood. So we'll see.
Or Kamini.
All right.
We're going to figure it out together.
Whatever it is.
Two hot messes, and we're going to figure this out.
We're going to figure it out. All we know is she's thebombdiggity.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome her to the show. Yay!
Hi there.
Okay.
Hey.
What's
How
happening?
are you guys?
How are you?
I am well.
I looked her up on Facebook earlier. I said, "Yo, this is the lady from Facebook. I love it."
Yes, she is. She's the bomb. She is. How are you tonight?
I am very well. How are you? I will solve the mystery. It is Kamini.
Like
Kamini.
That's right. Like hominy grits. Like hominy grits.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Well, Kamini, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us this evening. Tell everybody a little bit about your background. And you heard what we were talking about, that it's the holiday season. We're in the midst of a pandemic and people are just, we're tired. So go right ahead and present yourself to my audience.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, first and foremost. I am Kamini Wood. First and foremost, I am the mom of 5 myself. So I am mothering 5 children through this pandemic. I am also a certified life coach, like you mentioned. So I'm working with individuals on a daily basis on ending that outsourcing of their self-worth, really helping them find the pleasures that and success that they can define for themselves so that they can really be engaged in their life and let go of those external validations and external expectations, and really live life the way that they want to live it, and really truly find joy for themselves, not defined by somebody else.
Wow. So now I was reading the Gallup report that was saying that 27% of Americans are experiencing a lot of sadness this year, and the number is on the rise. And I must admit, it's true. I mean, we live here in Chicago where now it gets dark at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't have the best weather here in Chicago. I was just in Florida a couple of weeks ago and it was beautiful, 85 degrees. I know you're in the Carolinas. So let's start off with, why are people upset to begin with right now?
Well, I think you guys touched on this. I think people are tired. They're burned out. They are just the uncertainty in that word unprecedented. We're in these unprecedented times. I think I've heard more and more people say to me, if I hear that word one more time, I'm going to totally lose it. Right. And it's because we know it's uncertain. Everything is uncertain. How many times can we possibly be told it's uncertain? And it gets to that point where it's just enough. Give me something to hold on to. Right. And I've heard people talk about wanting to get back to normal. And I really believe that what I've been working on with people is coming to acceptance of the here and now, and recognizing that no matter how we move forward, it's never going to be quote unquote normal again. It's going to be a new normal. And if we can come to that place of acceptance, we can then figure out what steps do we need to take to move forward from here.
Wow. I like that.
Wow.
One thing that I've noticed, and we kind of talked about this, and not that I try to pick on a political party, whether Democrat, Republican, but it seems as if bad behavior seems to be rewarded now more than ever. And me being a Christian, one would think that more Christian-like behavior, more, being kind to your fellow man, but it seems as if we love the nasty negative now. Why is that?
That's a really great question. I've been struggling with it personally too, because I truly believe in humankind and the human race. And if we could just all recognize that we are these spiritual beings having a human experience, we're trying to do the best we can. And when we reward the bad behavior, or we think that there is something that there should be accolades given to those who just aren't kind to each other. It baffles me. I don't quite understand it. If we could come together as a nation, you guys were talking about this in the previous interview, just come together as a nation, recognize that we are really these spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're in this together. We actually can move forward. We can move forward, and we can move through this. It's not about looking at what's happening to us and getting into victimhood. It's about recognizing, again, acceptance of the here and now. And now let's try to figure out ways to move through it rather than trying to constantly beat our heads against it, if that makes sense.
Complete sense, actually.
Kevin,
sense.
do you have a comment you want to share with our guests? Or
I do, absolutely. First of all, as Art said, thank you for being on with us. Both Art and myself have a pretty significant social media following. I'm hoping that part of mine is watching as well, so that this information from both our guests tonight can get out there, because it's vital to understand that it's okay not to be okay. And for us to be able to confirm and verify that through information. I kind of laughed when you said unprecedented. One person that I date, she's a microbiologist, and she says, if you say unprecedented one more time in any of our conversations, we are not going to be dating anymore. I'm going to stab you with a hypodermic. So I thought of when you were saying that, I tried not to laugh, but it's really funny. I guess my question, is it kind of relates to what you were saying earlier, and actually relates to what Art was saying, is where we are as a culture. And I believe that we, people laugh at me. I'm 57, so I'm kind of a 70s baby, an 80s, and a 90s baby. Those are probably my formative years, I would say. I was born in 63. So I remember a time where it was not okay for kids to curse their parents out or even use profanity. I remember a time where education and intelligence was celebrated and you were
Yes.
looked up to. I remember a time where I would be in the grocery store and somebody pushed the cart in front of me while I'm trying to decide between the ketchup and the relish, and they said, "Excuse me." I can't remember the last time that actually happened, and this is before the pandemic. I remember when I thought things were changing for us as a culture when it relates to our morals and values. I was watching this show called Dynasty. I don't know if you guys are, well, obviously, I'm sure Art remembers Dynasty
I used to love
with
Dynasty.
the Carringtons and the whole thing. Well, I remember Crystal getting into a big fight with Alexis. And I remember that one called the other one a bitch, excuse my language, on national television. And I was pretty young at that time, probably in my 20s or so. And I remember saying, wow, they really allowed this on TV. And then it began to slide to me where first we were seeing it in our media, then we were seeing it in our music, and then Bart Simpson comes on. He's one of the worst. There was a time where Bart Simpson would have never saw the light of day as a television show. Not a kid that talks back to his parents, not a kid that curses, not a kid that's rude. It just doesn't happen. Remember, we're coming from Leave It to Beaver. We're coming from Dennis the Menace. Yes. And so suddenly we see this cultural shift. And it was passive at first. But every time you allow more and more, then it grows to where we now look. And we actually, people, when they come to me and they say, well, Kevin, you're this pop culture guy and you're this music guy. Yeah, but I'm a person. I'm an observer of people. And one of the things I noticed is that once reality television became the number one most watched medium, well, we ended up electing a president who was what? A reality TV star with those accompanying behaviors that you would see in a reality TV show. And thus we have what we have, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, whatever.
Wait, get to where we trying to get to with this.
Okay, I'm going to go straight there. What is your observation about our culture that has kind of allowed for us to be where we are? Because it's one of the weaknesses now that doesn't allow us to unify and combat a single enemy that we all have now at this point. What do you think about our culture at this point, and how can we kind of alleviate some of those things?
Well, I think part of the issue that we're facing is as a culture in terms of the topic that we were talking about COVID burnout and the unhappiness and the sadness that we're facing as a culture, we almost look down on one another, right? There's all of these external expectations and it's about, am I measuring up? So there's this constant social construct of how am I measuring up to the next person? And really it's about how can we self-source what I was talking about earlier about what I do, to self-sourcing our own worth, but it's also recognizing that we don't have to constantly match and meet what other people are doing. And I think as a culture, that's where we keep upping the game, right? Where one person or one set of people behaves a certain way, and then we keep seeing other people trying to match it and up the level. And I think that's where that cultural issue that we're facing is coming from. It's a lot of that social, the social comparisons that happen and the constant trying to keep up with the next guy.
Wow.
Kamini, let me ask you this. How do we not waddle in our pity right now? Holidays, this is not a normal holiday. We won't be having Kevin, I thought about this the other day. From the weekend of Thanksgiving all the way up until the first week of January, do you know I average at least 40 parties a holiday season? That won't be happening this year. So I'm upset that I can't put my fabulous outfits on and have cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and so I'm depressed behind that.
Go to people's house and take food home. That's the big part of this.
Yes, and open bars and all that. So now, Kamini, what am I going to do to keep from losing my mind?
Well, honestly, the first thing is to not suppress that feeling, right? So a lot of us, when we feel sad, we don't talk about it. And it's actually about talking about it and shedding light on what we're feeling. Because I think a lot of times we feel like we have to put the brave face on and say everything is fine and don't worry about me. And instead, it's about naming it. But then, as you said, how do we move forward and not wallow in it? And it's about recognizing I'm sad, or I'm feeling sad. It's not I am sad. I'm feeling sad. And then asking ourselves, what do I need? And if it is that socialization or that ability to meet with others, it's finding a way to connect with those people. So maybe it's not we're not going to 40 parties and getting to put on those great outfits, but maybe it is getting on more Zoom calls. Maybe it is getting on the phone and really connecting with those people that we normally would be connecting with. Maybe it's just recognizing I need, to have downtime. I need some quiet time. It's really figuring out what that feeling of sadness is telling you and what you need. And from that place, figuring out what the next step forward is.
Oh, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about your amazing book, which is a chant, and it's Life's Gentle Reminders. And so let's talk about what made you write the book and some of the things that people would learn from the book.
So what's really funny about this is I did not set out to write a book. Instead, what I was doing was creating short stories or short analogies of experiences in my daily life, where I was taking experiences that would normally be considered stressors or frustrations or just things that were happening and finding ways to look at them differently and finding ways to grow from them. And so it's essentially a compilation of these short stories meant to not necessarily be a cover to cover read, but somebody could just pick it up and read one at a time very quickly in the morning. So for an example, one of them is just me recounting a time that I was stuck in traffic watching the construction workers scrape away at the road. And normally that would infuriate me. And I was originally frustrated sitting in traffic and watching this happen. And then I started to think about it and look at it differently and realized, wow, that's what we do as humans when we're ready to actually move forward with our lives, when we're ready to get unstuck from a certain situation. It's about scraping away all of those old patterns, all of those old behaviors, getting down to the bare pavement before putting down the new pavement or the new tar, putting down these new patterns of showing up and these new thought beliefs. And so the book itself is just a way to look at things that are happening in our everyday life and recognize that those experiences can actually be gentle reminders to us about our own self-growth and a way that we can look at things that may sometimes feel like frustrations, but we can actually grow from them.
Wow. I love it. I do. Before we let you go, I do have a question. Being the mom of 5, you look amazing, by the way. Look, Kevin, we got to give her a shout out too. The mother of 5. How were you able to have your children adapt to all of this? And like, what are their ages? Because I'm sure it's probably different ages, activities, all of that.
So my oldest is actually 19 and my youngest is 7. My oldest, when this pandemic hit, she is a professional ballerina and she was auditioning for companies when the pandemic hit. So she had to go through the process of waiting on contracts and having them pulled back because COVID hit. So that was a huge learning experience. She ended up finding a company that found a creative way to still have their performances. So she's actually moved out to Oregon. So I'm in North Carolina. She's in Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, I have a 17-year-old son. So he's a junior in high school. He's aspiring to play lacrosse in college. So this pandemic has been an interesting growth experience for him because, again, COVID has shut most things down. So most college coaches are not recruiting right now. So that's been a growth experience. And then, of course, I'm virtual schooling the others. My youngest is 7. And so I'm balancing my coaching practice in addition to virtual schooling. So it's been an experience. It's been one of those moments where I've had to use my own methods of practicing gratitude and finding those nuggets of positivity in each day, because there have been moments where I wasn't totally sure if I was losing my mind or not.
I understand.
Hey, look, hey, man, Look, 7 to 19. You must have probably back there behind that brown thing must be a pretty
Right.
extensive liquor cabinet.
Right,
Because
right.
that's a long
It
range
is.
of
It really
that's
is.
pretty significant range. Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you something really quickly, if Art will allow.
Sure.
I was watching someone the other day, and they were speaking about suicides and how the suicide rates are different during the holidays and whatnot. This particular video that I was watching is a gentleman who debunks myths. He has a list of myths, and it can be different subjects. So one of the myths is that he spoke about is that suicides go up during the holidays. Can you touch on that just a little bit really quickly here before we let you go?
So I'm not a therapist or a doctor or any of that nature, but I can say that my understanding is the holidays do create a lot more of sadness and isolation. And so my take on that whole thing is stay as connected as you can. If you feel isolated, find ways to reach out to a support system. Especially during the holidays and during a pandemic. It is very, very important that we check on our loved ones. We stay connected, as emotionally connected as we possibly can. And for those who are feeling alone or isolated, find ways to reach out to a support system.
All right. There it is. Hey, Art, did you notice that when I said Kamini, like hominy, she shook her head real quick. I said, she's been around some black people. Because no one does no hominy grits. I said grits. Yes. She was like, yeah, that's it. Yes. There you go. You got it.
You got it.
She's from the Carolinas, my friend. Are you kidding me? Some of the best tripping grits ever.
I thought that was funny, but I held it in because we're on television. Cool.
That's all right. That's all right. Kamini, it has been nothing but a pleasure having you here with us this evening. I hope you'll come back and hang out with us again. You look, you passed our test. You did. You look amazing. We want to wish you and your family a beautiful holiday season. Real quick, would you like to leave a message of hope and inspiration for people for the holiday? Just in closing, what would you like to say to everybody?
I would just love to say to everybody that it's really about finding your unique gifts and honoring your unique gifts. We are not in this world to be carbon copies of each other. It is our unique gifts and that unique color and spirit that we bring that allows us to be the complex, beautiful human race that we are, and that life is really a journey that's happening through us and not to us. And so it's just about taking each day and showing up and doing the best that we can.
Oh, yay. The amazing Kamini Woods. We love you. Your website is up on the screen. I'm following you on social media now, and you are invited to come back and hang out with us anytime. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Happy holidays and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, life coach, best-selling author, Kamini Woods, and we're excited to have had her here with us tonight. And it's all about just creating better energy during this holiday season. We know we're in the middle of a pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen with these vaccinations. You might end up with a tail hanging out your neck. We don't know. But we're going to stay positive about all of this. We are. Well, God bless and happy holidays to you and your family, Kamini. Okay?
Kamini rhymes with hominy.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it does. Good night. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Man, you a mess. I love it. She was great. I love her. She was great. Good energy.
Both guests were awesome, but I looked her up on social media before when you invited me to be on. She's married, so that's why I wasn't really doing much.
You already flirted with one married lady, so we'll just leave that alone.
This one has 7 kids, so the husband probably wasn't gonna go for none of that. I'm sorry, 5 kids. What if 5, 7? He wasn't gonna go for none of that flirting. So I guarantee if he was back in the background, he like, nah, G, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, so somebody done already sent a message about Dr. Janet Seabrook's husband. So wait a minute, let me put it up here.
Don't put it up.
Right. Somebody said, I'm telling the hubby. Somebody, he adopted too. You know these people be on it on my show. These people don't play.
I'm busted. Right. Never mind the fact that never mind the fact that I'm actually dating somebody, right? So
that's all right.
All this whole Kevin, you joking around and you a host, and I didn't think that was very funny.
Right. Look, I had somebody to tell me the other day, they said, Art, well, you have some of the most finest women ever on the show. I said, well, I
You really
appreciate
do.
that.
You really,
I'm
and
like,
they're not just. It's not just that they're fine. They're actually
yes,
accomplished, and they're
yes.
doing things. But I'm actually dating someone who's wonderful. And baby, look, this is all professional.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
the
all a
job.
show. Right. That's what same thing I tell people I deal with. Like, look, baby, it's a show. I get ready, I do this, and once I'm done, it's
Right,
over. So yes,
right.
absolutely. Well, Kevin, you know we do our rules of protocol on here. Do you have your mask tonight?
I got more than one. I've got one.
Oh,
I
oh,
got two.
oh.
I've got three.
Oh, very nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't done this tonight because we've had such a full show, but we do want to
Exactly.
keep everybody healthy and safe. We want to remind everyone to please wear your mask. Make sure you cover your nose and your mouth, but wear your mask
Completely.
completely. If you
Down
need,
here with the nose exposed
right,
does not count.
right. No, down here, down here. I done seen some of
Right.
y'all this weekend. It ain't
Down
up here,
here
Lord.
talking about I'm
It,
wearing my
right,
mask. What's your
right, right.
problem?
No, it needs to be up like this. Okay, I know. I wear eyeglasses, so I already know about the fog situation. All of that.
Absolutely. I wear sunglasses. It's the
Yes,
same problem.
we want to remind everyone to sanitize.
Alcohol.
Kevin is using
Alcohol
alcohol. Soap and water works best. If
and
not, you can
Suave
always
lotion.
get hand sanitizer. Use that hand sanitizer. Make sure you clean under your nails, around your cuticles. Feces particles can be under your nails, all that kind of stuff. And so make sure you
Yep.
clean yourself and do all of that. Social
20 seconds. 20
social
seconds on the
Yep,
hands.
at least 6 feet. Make sure you stand back. Don't be up on people. And here's the
Nope.
biggest thing: if you're not feeling well, do us all a favor. Keep your ass at home. It's that easy.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. I guarantee you, no jobs right now really gonna question you a lot if you say you're not feeling well, unless you're a habitual. I'm not feeling well. You know, that's a whole nother thing. HR will talk to you about that. But if you feel as if you have a sore throat, sounding like Kevin just sounded, whatever the case may be, keep your ass
Right.
at home. Yes, absolutely.
And
All right.
if there's some confusion and you do feel that you are having some symptoms or that you may need to be tested, if you find that there's some confusion or some difficulty reaching your doctor, there are some free clinics. All you have to do is Google from your address,
Yep.
your zip code,
Yep.
find out the clinics that are giving the test, and there are some of those that are located somewhere near you. I can pretty much assure you, or we can
Yes.
pretty much assure you of that. So don't
Yes.
let that dissuade you from going to get tested, please.
No,
If you feel that
no,
you need to be
do not.
tested, by all means, go get tested.
Good. Coming up on the Tuesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show, Bishop Damone Seraphin is back in the co-host seat tomorrow night. And, you know, whenever he's here, we always have a really great conversation, much like tonight, and all of our amazing co-hosts. Tomorrow night, we welcome to the show the creative minds behind Gallery Gouchard, which is a fabulous art gallery located in Chicago's Bronzeville area, and we will meet the mayor and first lady of Bronzeville.
Two of my favorite folks.
People. Yes. So tomorrow night we'll dabble into the world of fine art. So who knows what they'll show us tomorrow night, but we're looking forward to that. And then recently, gospel artist and pastor Smokey Norfolk had posted a picture of he and his son on social media. His son is a teenager, and his son was curled up in his arms, laying on the sofa with him. And some people had a lot of problems about that. So tomorrow night, we're going to, absolutely. We're going to talk about your emotional connection to your children, your family. Bishop Damone Seraphin and I both believe that people have become emotionally detached to their loved ones. And so tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the importance of staying emotionally attached to your loved ones now more than ever due to this pandemic and the crisis that we're faced. So make sure you guys tune in to the Tuesday night edition. And then coming up on Wednesday night, our entire show is dedicated to mental health. We're going to talk about mental health from every aspect, as well as if you've thought about going to therapy, but not necessarily sure what might happen at therapy, not necessarily sure about medications that you would want to take for mental health, to help you. We have nothing but experts all Wednesday night to help us with that. I'm doing the doggone thing.
All right. We got somebody in the chat.
Yes, we're talking
Let's
about the
see.
Bouchards. Yes.
Okay, Andre and Francis.
Yes, they'll be here tomorrow night. So I'm excited about that. Another
Cool.
great show. Thank you, Ursula. Ursula, we appreciate you, my friend. We do.
Thank you, Ursula.
See. Yes, we do. So, Kevin, before we have to run, is it anything else you want to chit chat and talk about real quick before we get out of here?
I'm the only thing I'm going to say is if you're watching, please make sure you share whatever medium you are watching on. If you have the opportunity to share from Facebook, support my man. Wait, I never can point the right direction.
It's that way. It's this way.
Here we go. Wait, no, there he is.
No, this is you over here. This is you.
No, I'm pointing to you.
I'm pointing to you.
Okay, somehow it must be flipped around.
So you are pointing to me. You did a good job.
Okay. So I want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of sharing the Real Chat Daddy show. If you're on Facebook and once the show starts, please hit the share button. Please share on and subscribe on YouTube as well. Please tell your friends about it. You don't have to tell everybody that you know. Some of you that only means 5 people. Some of you that means 2,000 people. Just tell a couple of people that you enjoyed the show and you support what our Chat Daddy Sims is doing. And please make sure that that information gets out. And all it is hitting the button, guys. That's how you can help and support. That's how you can help a great platform, continue to grow. And so that's the one thing that I want to say. For anyone that might be remotely interested, you can find me on Instagram at KROSS Chicago. You can find my company, my marketing company and branding company at Tugard Media. That's at TWOGUARDMEDIA. But more importantly, please make sure that you share this show. The more platforms that we have for us and by us, the more voice that we will have and the louder our voices will be.
Yes, very good. I appreciate you so much, my friend. That was really great. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm raising money for the Salvation Army. Every year prior to this pandemic, I would stand downtown in front of Marshall Fields and Macy's, and I would be a bell ringer so people would put money in the kettle. Well, because of the pandemic, we're not doing in person, we're doing virtual. And so if you guys would be so kind as to make a contribution to the Salvation Army, all you have to do is text the word Chat Daddy to 51555 and you'll be able to help rescue Christmas. If you want to go online to do it, there's the information right there. salarmychicago.org/Chat Daddy. Make a donation, no matter how small, no matter how large. If you have some gold bullions that you want to get rid of, go right ahead and donate them to my friends at the Salvation Army. All right, Kevin, what else we got? Is that it?
That's it, man. Everybody, we understand that it's tough. We are going on a year, technically, that the pandemic has been with us, and coming up on nearly a year that we have been in a situation where we've had a public health emergency. Yes. But continue to stay prayed up. Continue to stay true with yourself. If you're not feeling good, it's okay. If you're struggling, it's okay to do that. Just don't live there. It's okay to visit, but don't live in that place. Right. Call friends. There are numbers that you can reach out to. Suicide prevention. There's some online counseling services. There are resources that you will be able to have access to, and always do not be afraid or ashamed to make that call. All right.
Very good. Very good. Well, on behalf of my co-host this evening, the amazing Mr. Kevin Ross, international flirt, businessman, music executive, but we do love and adore him. We do.
The name is Ross.
Kevin Ross. Kevin Ross. I do. I am Art Chat Daddy Sims. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to visit therealchatdaddy.com for more information about yours truly. I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Gallery Gouchard will be here. So I know it'll be great, as well as we're going to talk about just bonding more with your family during this time, not being afraid to let your emotions show. And we're going to have a really great conversation about that. All right, my friends, don't forget to wear your mask. Please wear your mask. That's how we do it. Wear your mask.
Keep yourself sanitized. Keep your hands sanitized. Clean. Wash your hands after you go.
Yep.
That's right. When you go to the store, you'll be surprised. When you leave out of your house for just one trip, you would be to the store. You'll be surprised how much contact you make. Please wash your hands when you come home.
Yep, I agree. I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. Thank you guys so very much for all the feedback and comments tonight. I love you all. On behalf of Kevin Ross and yours truly, we want to say good night. Thank you, Kevin. I love you, my friend. Peace. I appreciate you, brother. And I'll talk to you soon.
Sir.
All right. Have a great night. Thanks again.
You too. Thank you for having me.
All right. We out.